We help elect pro-environment candidates to public office. And I am proud to announce our endorsement of Janet Mills for governor. Janet knows that a healthy Maine environment is essential to our economy and our way of life. She will put Maine on a path to developing clean, local, renewable sources of energy while ensuring that our air, land, water, and wildlife are protected for future generations. Now, my daughter is in Standish today, and she's sorry not to meet you. But we are joined by several parents because we're talking about the legacy we leave for our children. Janet knows that our kids deserve clean air to breathe that doesn't trigger an asthma attack. Janet knows that our kids deserve to go fishing in clean rivers where they can eat what they catch. Janet knows that our kids should have water that comes out of the faucet at home and at school that is safe to drink. And Janet knows that our kids should have access to the woods, waters, and wildlife that are part of Maine's natural heritage. And Janet knows that our kids deserve a candidate that understands what every kid in this state knows from science class, that carbon pollution is changing Maine's climate and putting our health and Maine's way of life at risk. Maine people have a clear choice this November. Only one candidate, Janet Mills, will put Maine people and Maine families first. Right, Janet? Now, we have three speakers who work at the intersection of our environment and our economy, and they will speak about why they are voting for Janet this November. First up is Bobby Reynolds, an avid hunter and fisherman who is on the board of Maine Conservation Voters.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
As Maureen said, my name is Bobby Reynolds. I'm from Manchester, right over the way here. I'm a board member of Maine Conservation Voters, and I'm an avid outdoorsman who loves to hunt, trap, and fish. And I am pleased to be here today in support of Janet Mills in her race to be Maine's next governor. It's fitting that we're in this setting here with this beautiful river behind us. In fact, I was on the Kennebec earlier this week. On Saturday morning, I was a little bit farther upstream, actually. I was fishing the wadable portion just below the Shamet Dam in Fairfield. It was about 6:30 in the morning, and as I made my way down to the river, I jumped a big group of mallard ducks, probably 30 or 40 of them, who were rather annoyed with me for disturbing their morning peace. As I waded out into the river, I got about waist deep, and I looked upstream, and in the eddy of the dam were a couple of hundred Canada geese who had just returned from their morning feed, and they were roosting, taking it easy. There was a great hatch of flies coming off. The fish cooperated. And most importantly, I didn't fall in, which is always a bonus. I've taken a dip or two in that river in the past. I fished for a couple of hours, and as I made my way out of the river, a family was coming down the bank, a mother and a father with 3 teenage kids. They each had a kayak, big smiles on their face as they eased into the river to enjoy another Maine day. And then it struck me. I live in the most beautiful place on the face of the planet, and sometimes we take it for granted. It was just a fantastic setting. And that's why it's important that we elect Janet Mills as our next governor. Her Franklin County roots run deeply. She has a generational tie to Maine's outdoor heritage, and that's what's important. You know, it was just a generation ago that rivers like the Kennebec and others like the Penobscot and Androscoggin and smaller bodies of water were so filled with raw sewage and toxic waste that there were no fish to catch. You would not see ducks or geese spending their time on these rivers as they made their way north in the spring and south in the fall. There would be no families entering the river with their kayaks to enjoy another Maine day, and certainly there'd be no bald-headed guy waded out waist deep risking falling in. It took one generation to clean those rivers up, and Janet has been a leader in that regard. As a legislator and attorney general, she led the fight to remove toxic mercury from the Penobscot River. She has led the fight to fund important programs like Maine's Land for Maine Futures program, a program that is wildly popular with voters that conserves through conservation easements, critical habitats that hunters and fishermen enjoy. And she has fought against any idea of opening up Maine's coastal waters to offshore drilling. Simply put, Janet Mills is a leader when it comes to protecting Maine's pristine heritage and outdoor traditions by protecting these clean waters that are so critical to that. That's why I am pleased to endorse her. You know, it only took one generation, as I said, to clean up these rivers, but we can't take it for granted. Maine's clean rivers and waters are too valuable to our economy and too important to Maine's outdoor heritage to take for granted. That's why I'm pleased to be here today with the Maine Conservation Voters, and as an outdoorsman, an enthusiastic outdoorsman, I will enthusiastically support Janet Mills in her effort to be the next governor of Maine. So thank you very much, and vote for Janet Mills.
Thank you, Bobby.
Next up is Fortunat Mueller from Revision Energy.
All right.
Hi, good afternoon. Thanks for inviting me and including me. My name is Fortunat Mueller. I'm co-founder and managing partner of Revision Energy, a Maine-based employee-owned solar energy company. We have about 240 employees in Maine, New Hampshire, and Massachusetts. The solar industry nationwide now employs about 375,000 people. That's more than oil, natural gas, coal, and nuclear power generation combined. In the last 10 years, the cost of solar and wind energy has dropped by more than 70%. And in 2017, renewable energy made up 75% of all new power generation that came online worldwide. But in the last 8 years here in Maine, we've suffered from a complete lack of leadership. We've had a governor who doesn't understand and doesn't care to understand energy issues. Insofar as we've had policies, they've been built around crony capitalism and sustaining the incumbents in a 20th century energy landscape. In 2018, we're at the beginning of a complete transformation of our global energy system, driven by the urgent need to reduce carbon pollution and the ever-decreasing costs of solar and wind power. The world and the US are moving rapidly towards a renewable, distributed energy future that is more reliable, cleaner, and cheaper than the status quo. That transition will change how we heat buildings, it'll change how we fuel our cars, and it will change how we power our homes and our businesses. Where the previous administration only ever saw energy as a problem, Janet Mills understands it as a phenomenal opportunity for the state of Maine. She understands that Maine is incredibly blessed with abundant natural resources, not to mention incredible, passionate individuals and innovative companies who are eager and ready to be a part of New England's clean energy transition. And Janet's put forward an energy vision and a plan that will help make Maine a leader in that transition. Janet understands, as most Mainers do, that in Maine it's never been the environment versus the economy, because in Maine the environment is the economy. Maine is ready, eager, desperate for bold, strong leadership, and Janet is absolutely the right person for that job. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you. I'll come back and visit you guys again soon, okay?
Last up is Adam Lee, who is Vice President of the Board of Maine Conservation Voters and Chairman of Lee Auto Malls.
My name's Adam Lee. I'm chairman of Lee Auto Malls, as Maureen said. I've spent the last 30 years selling cars and trucks in Maine and working hard to protect the environment, which is a little bit of a paradox. I, along with a lot of other people, worked very hard around 10 or 15 years ago to make Maine a clean car state, adopting the strictest rules in the nation for fuel economy and emissions from cars. And I was proud of that. And I was very proud to see that when the EPA made an effort to roll this back, which they are currently doing, that Attorney General Mills stood up and sued them and is currently suing them to prevent them from taking this right away from the state of Maine. Over the last 8 years, she has consistently stood up for what is right, protecting us not just from the EPA, but also, more importantly, from Governor LePage. Time and again, she stopped him from doing things that would harm Mainers. She's funded health initiatives that he wanted to cut, stood up to the drug manufacturers, come up with creative ways to help fund expanding Medicare expansion. She's produced funding to help create an electric car charging corridor, which would allow more people to buy cars and attract more people with electric cars, reducing pollution. All these efforts would be opposed by the current administration and will be opposed by Sean Moody. Maine has so many things going for it, but if we don't elect a governor who will protect our air and reduce what is one of the highest rates of childhood asthma in the nation, we won't prosper. My father always told me, do what's right, not what's popular. I want a governor that will do what's right for Maine, a governor that will help us thrive and will help all people prosper. Janet Mills will be that governor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The choice is clear. Only one candidate, Janet Mills, will be a champion for Maine's environment and economy, ensuring that Maine families have clean water to drink, healthy air to breathe, and a natural legacy that is passed on to the next generation. And I am pleased to announce and proud to announce Janet Mills.
Thank you, Maureen.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Adam. Thank you for all you've done to make electric vehicles and hybrids more accessible to more people across the state of Maine. Fortunate, thank you for all you've done, staying the course despite the winds of political power that shifted and changed from day to day sometimes, and staying the course. We're going to make solar happen in Maine. We have fewer than 600 jobs in solar right now. Massachusetts has more than 14,000 jobs in solar. This is vital to our economy, to growing the state. And Bobby, I just have one question. What fly were you using the other morning? Oh, come on. Come on. I'll find out. I'll find out. Thank you very much. You know that I was born and raised in rural Western Maine, and when I was a kid, its woods and waters were my playground. And to this day, there's nowhere I'd rather be than fly fishing on Temple Stream or kayaking on Clearwater Lake. And back when I was a kid, you could all but walk across the Androscoggin River. It was so dirty, and the foam and toxic ooze were so thick. And this river was clogged with log jams that my father, was proud to say, as a Republican U.S. attorney, helped clean up in the early 70s. And now, with the dams come down and the logs gone, it is fishable, navigable, kayakable, swimmable. It's an incredible river. It was one of the dirtiest in the country. Now it's one of the cleanest. We should be so proud and able to keep it that way. Now, thanks to the Clean Water Act, written and pushed through 45 years ago by Maine Senator Edmund Muskie, the Androscoggin, Kennebec, Penobscot, thousands of rivers and streams across Maine and across this country are cleaner than they've ever been before. And thanks to Maine Senator George Mitchell, who led the charge to renew the Clean Air Act, we're still breathing clean air. It's that legacy of hard work and dedication to our state that the Maine conservation voters embody. And I am so honored to receive their endorsement today. Thank you. These two crucial laws I mentioned, though, prove that with leadership and political will, we can protect our environment and tackle the real challenges facing our state. But protecting our environment is still a battle. It is a battle against those people and those forces who want to take advantage of our state for their own political gain. Our state has been under threat from the international chemical giant Mallinckrodt Company, which dumped toxic mercury into the Penobscot River. Imagine. And our state was under threat from Volkswagen, who cheated our consumers and violated our environmental laws. But when anyone, corporations, companies, people, take advantage of Mainers, I will not stand for it. That's why, as Attorney General, I have held Mallinckrodt accountable and forced them to clean up this mess to the tune of nearly $130 million. That's why I took Volkswagen to court and won millions of dollars in penalties to go to air quality improvements in Maine, electric vehicles, charging stations, and so many other good things we can do. That's why I've stood strong against attempts to open up Maine's offshore waters to drilling for oil and gas, threatening our coastlines and our maritime economy. I promise you I will never back down from taking on anyone who tries to take advantage of our state and our people. I promise that protecting our environment, to me, is not a luxury. It is the linchpin of our economy. It is fundamental to our very way of life. Some people will argue that creating jobs and protecting our environment are opposing goals, that we must have to pick one or the other. But as every sportsman like Bobby Reynolds or lobsterman or person employed in the tourist industry knows, that is not true. We can do both. For us to succeed as a state, these two goals of improving the economy and cleaning up our natural resources go hand in hand. We must take action to protect Maine from the effects of climate change. It is science. It is truth. And from the destruction and migration of lobsters as our ocean warms, to the spread of Lyme disease and other insect-borne illnesses, climate change presents a real and very profound threat to our state, to the thousands of Maine people employed in our coastal industries, and to our very way of life. It is past, indeed long past, time to decisively reject the special interest groups that want us to say nothing and do nothing about this threat to our way of life. And I have to say, I have a hard time believing that my opponent will do that, will stand up to those interests, when he, in fact, denies the science that tells us that climate change is real. The good news is, Maine has the resources and the expertise to lead the entire nation in growing the clean energy economy, creating good-paying jobs, cutting pollution, and lowering energy costs. What we've been missing is a leader who is willing and ready to take advantage of these opportunities, and as governor, that's exactly what I will do. Together, we will support the cutting-edge research that's going on right now into offshore wind, going on at our university in Orono. There are federal dollars waiting to expand these programs that we should accept. And with the right leadership, Maine has the potential to become a wind energy powerhouse, cutting our own energy costs and exporting power to the rest of New England and beyond. We have the potential to bring millions of dollars and hundreds of good jobs to our state. Growing up in Farmington, I learned up close that the cost of heating our homes in the winter dominates a family's budget. It still does. We will invest in weatherizing our housing stock, the oldest housing stock in America, as you know, so that folks can put their hard-earned money towards something besides the cost of heating the house. We will support rooftop and community solar, geothermal power, and an all-of-the-above energy strategy. Will increase reliability, cut emissions, and grow our economy. And as governor, I will appoint skilled and experienced, knowledgeable people, leaders, to the Public Utilities Commission, to the Board of Environmental Protection, people who understand the importance of energy innovation, and people who put Maine people and Maine families first. In the past 8 years, almost 8 years, we have stood idly by in Maine and watched other states beat us as they grew their economies and seized on clean energy opportunities. Now our time has come. My pledge to the people of Maine is that we will fight every single day to protect our natural resources and for the health of our people, for the health of our economy, so our children and grandchildren can grow and explore and wonder at the majesty and beauty of Maine, just like I did as a child and I continue to do to this day. Thank you. Hey, Roger.